And right now I want to bring in Representative Gregory Meeks, the Democrat of New York, as we are watching these pictures of flares and explosions in Gaza. In just a few minutes, Congressman Meeks, the House is set to vote on the Republicans' $14 billion Israel aid bill. The new House Speaker, Mike Johnson, as you know well, he decided to split that money for Israel from aid to Ukraine and to add cuts to spending for the IRS as well, setting up this clash with the Democratic-controlled Senate. We've heard from Chuck Schumer saying it's dead on arrival there. The president, the White House, has said they will veto this, but it does put some House Democrats in a tough position. Congressman, what are you anticipating? You obviously are the head of the House Foreign Affairs, or the ranking member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee right now. You've accused Republicans of playing politics with national security. What do you say to those Democratic colleagues who may vote in favor of this bill, as some have indicated?
Well, I think that clearly the Republicans are playing politics with our national security, and that should not, that should be apparent to all. Never before have we conditioned support and aid to Israel, and we should not do it now. It would set a very bad precedent for the future. And so I would think that you'll see very few Democrats, because what is happening here, if you look at, as you said, Senator Schumer, you look at Republicans in the Senate, Democrats here, there's only the MAGA Republicans that want to destroy precedent and condition aid to Israel. It is a bad bill that we should completely vote no on. And I would hope that some of our Republican colleagues also vote no. Many of us, Mr. McCall, the chairman of the committee, and I also talk about how significant and important Ukraine is. And to have a bill that that separates Israel from Ukraine, where we've already heard Hamas visited Russia recently, is a dangerous thing to keep them together. And I think that as the world look at us, and as we are moving forward, especially with some of our allies in the Gulf, we know that Saudi Arabia, for example, is negotiating to be a part of the Abraham Accords. What they're looking at also, what helps them, is to make sure that humanitarian aid is included therein. And that's what we need to do if we're going to get, Hamas has got to go. We're going to make sure that Israel gets rid of Hamas. And then we've got to make sure that we've got a way forward. And this is the way forward, and to save as many innocent human lives that we possibly can.
Congressman Meeks, I want to ask you about the pictures that we're seeing on the left side of our screen right now. This is the situation there in Gaza, what appears to be in and around Gaza City right now. I'm going to ask you about that in a half moment. But again, just to the point we've been speaking about, as Chuck Schumer, the top Democrat in the Senate, has said it's dead on arrival, this bill, when it gets to the Senate. So how much time does Congress have to play with before aid to Israel and Ukraine gets resolved?
Not much. That's why I wish that the Republicans did not play politics. It seems that everybody is on the same page, with the exception of the MAGA Republicans in the House. I've been in Congress for 25 years now, and never have I seen such games being played. It is of an urgency that we must pass the supplemental for Israel, for Ukraine, for Taiwan, and in the Indo-Pacific. They are all looking at us for leadership. And to be playing this game that the MAGA Republicans are playing is not a good thing. It is not good for Israel. You can't say that it is a good thing for Israel, because we could have put a bill on the floor that would have passed on suspension immediately, getting them the aid that they need, but they chose to play political games with this aid.
So, Congressman Meeks, to the pictures that we're seeing right now, do you believe that it's time for a ceasefire, as some Democrats have called for, protesters certainly have called for, and if so, under what conditions would you support such a thing?
Well, no, I can't say ceasefire only helps. People say have a ceasefire because, you look at Hamas, they would, want Israel to stop moving forward, so that they never stop shooting at Israel. So we need maybe a humanitarian pause to get people into position to safety, et cetera, of that nature. We're working very hard. I believe that Egypt and others need to open up the Rafah openings so that we can put people in place, and we need to talk about how we get innocent people in a safe place. But Israel has got to do and continue to do and not give Hamas a chance to regroup and come together and then try to another attack as they did before. You know, we cannot forget what took place on October the 7th. And Hamas would love to take a break and try to regroup and try to further their destruction of Israel. We cannot allow that to happen.
Let me ask you. Oh, I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize for the delay. I just want to ask you, though, as the world does see the civilian death toll grow in Gaza, obviously Israel is responding after 1,400 of its citizens were killed, some of them Americans, more than 30 of them Americans. Do you have any reservations about the way that Israel is conducting this war effort?
Well, I think that as president, I agree with President Biden, who I think have done a great job on this. We all have to abide by the rules of war. And I think that we need to make sure that we don't just go with vengeance and move forward and make some of the mistakes we made after 9/11. So I agree with President Biden 100%. However, I also agree that we have to make sure that we go after and destroy Hamas. And that's why you can't take or have a ceasefire. You know, much of what I believe, and we'll get more information in a few days, but what Israel is doing now is destroying the infrastructure of Hamas, many of what is in tunnels and under the ground.
Right.
And so now what they're doing is destroying the infrastructure of Hamas. And then I think and hope that, you know, as we look at the end game of this, that the Palestinian people themselves will come up with some real leadership. But Hamas cannot be a part of that. And we can try to figure out, along with the Abraham Accords, along with our allies in the Gulf, to have a Marshall Plan, if you will, to rebuild Gaza at some point with a responsible government that says, as Egypt has said, as Jordan has said, as Bahrain has said, that Israel has the right to exist.
And again,
that's what this is all about.
And
Israel
again, as you make a good point, it was
exist.
in 2007, of course, where Hamas ousted the Palestinian Authority from its place of leadership inside Gaza. Hamas running that area, that slice of land for the last 16 years, where it has been juggling its responsibilities, the people there, with its priority, which has been the annihilation of Israel. I do want to ask you, as we look at more of these live pictures right now, you see those flares above Israel, about some domestic politics as it relates to all of this and to the president. He got a 2024 primary challenger within the last several days. It's your colleague, the Democrat Dean Phillips of Minnesota. What do you think about Congressman Phillips' decision to run?
No, I think that he's making a huge mistake. There's no question about that. You know, on one side, he says and talks about the great things that President Biden has done. And history is going to record that President Biden has done a great job. I know I don't want someone who does not have any foreign policy experience in the nature that Joe Biden have heading our presidency. I want the cool hand, the steady hand, the wisdom that Joe Biden brings to a situation like this. I'm thankful that Joe Biden is the president of the United States as we're going through these horrific times in our world right now. He is a guy whose whole career was built on foreign affairs, and we got the right guy at the right time to be the president, and we will need him in 2024 and beyond.
Congressman Gregory Meeks of New York, we very much appreciate your making time to speak to us. Thanks for holding on as we've been watching this developing news, this breaking news coming out of Gaza right now, with what are flares and explosions above Gaza City. Congressman, thank you.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app, or follow us on social media.